the debt of the golden harvest. The full moon hung over the Zweigabin Mountains like a giant, unblinking eye. In the valley below, the rice paddies were a sea of shimmering silver. Saw Eh Doe was a weary farmer. This year, the rains had been cruel, and his crop was the only thing standing between his family and hunger. As the moon reached its peak, Saw Eh Doe stood at the edge of his field, looking up at the ancient, crumbling stupa on the limestone cliff above. Local legend whispered that the temple was guarded by a today, a restless spirit bound to the land. As Saw Eh Doe sharpened his sickle, the air grew unnaturally cold. The usual chorus of crickets fell silent. From the shadows of the banyan tree near the temple steps, a figure emerged. It wasn't a person, but a tall, thin shadow that seemed to swallow the moonlight. "The harvest is rich," a voice rasped, sounding like dry husks rubbing together. Saw Eh Doe froze. The figure was dressed in the tattered remains of a traditional Karen tunic, but its skin was the color of wood ash. "I only take what I planted," Saw Eh Doe stammered, dropping to his knees. The ghost drifted closer. It didn't walk. It flowed over the mud without leaving a footprint. "This land was mine when the kings still ruled from the east," the spirit hissed. "Every grain you cut pulls at my spirit. If you want the harvest, you must pay the tithe." The spirit demanded a bowl of the first milled rice and a chant of protection to be performed at the temple altar before dawn. If he failed, the spirit warned, the rice would turn to dust in the cooking pot. Saw Eh Doe worked through the night with a frantic energy. By the time the moon began to set, he had gathered the finest grains. He climbed the steep, jagged stairs to the ruined temple. With trembling hands, he placed the offering before the weathered Buddha statue. As he began the Karen prayers his grandmother had taught him, the shadow appeared in the doorway. It didn't look terrifying anymore, just tired. As the first light of dawn touched the stupa, the spirit bowed its head. "Remember," the ghost whispered, fading into the morning mist, "the land owns the farmer, not the other way around." The truce of the dawn was a lie. Saw Eh Doe returned to his village, his hands stained with the soot of the temple incense, believing he had bought his family's safety. But as he reached the edge of his golden field, the air didn't smell of ripening grain. It smelled of iron and wet earth. In the center of the path stood the spirit, no longer a fading shadow, but a solid, towering nightmare. Its eyes, once dim, now pulsed with a rhythmic, bloody light. It wasn't wearing the ash-colored rags anymore. It wore a red Karen tunic, identical to the one Saw Eh Doe wore, but dripping with a fluid that was far too thick to be water. "You offered me rice," the spirit roared, its voice cracking the silence like a landslide. "But the land does not want grain. The land is thirsty." Before Saw Eh Doe could raise his sickle, the spirit moved with the speed of a striking cobra. Its fingers, long, jagged claws like splintered bamboo, gripped the farmer's throat. Saw Eh Doe felt his breath leave him as he was lifted off the ground. The spirit's face peeled back, revealing rows of teeth carved from black stone. "A life for a life," the today hissed. "The full moon demands a blood tithe." With a desperate scream, Saw Eh Doe swung his sickle. The blade bit deep into the spirit's shoulder, but there was no blood, only a swarm of black beetles that poured from the wound, biting into Saw Eh Doe's arms. The farmer was thrown into the mud, the silver rice stalks piercing his skin like needles. He scrambled toward the temple steps, but the ground itself betrayed him. The mud turned to grasping hands. pulling him down. The spirit descended, its weight crushing Saw Eh Doe's chest. It leaned down, its jaw unhinging, and whispered a name, the name of Saw Eh Doe's youngest daughter. Saw Eh Doe realized then that the ritual hadn't been a prayer of protection. It had been an invitation. The blood he had spilled from his own hand during the harvest had woken something that hadn't eaten in a century. As the sun struggled to rise, a final, wet crunch echoed across the valley. When the villagers came looking for their farmer that morning, they found the rice paddies standing tall and beautiful, the grain more golden than it had ever been. But in the center of the field, Saw Eh Doe's red shirt lay shredded and soaked, draped over a scarecrow made of human bone. At the cliffside temple, the Buddha statue's eyes were now painted a fresh, glistening crimson. The harvest was ready, but no one dared to touch it.